President Joe Biden has described Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's approach to the war in Gaza as a mistake. This is Biden's sharpest critique of how the Israeli government is handling the conflict with Hamas. Biden made the statement during an interview with Univision that was taped just days after Israel's military strikes that killed 7 World Central Kitchen aid workers.
I think what he's doing is a mistake. I don't agree with his approach. I think it's outrageous that those 3 vehicles were hit by drones and taken out on a highway where it wasn't like it was along the shore. It wasn't like there was a convoy moving there, etc. So what I'm calling for is for the Israelis to just call for a ceasefire, allow for the next 6-8 weeks total access to all food and medicine going into the country.
Meanwhile, the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken has said that Hamas has been presented a very serious offer for a truce and hostage deal. The proposal was handed by Egyptian and Qatari mediators in talks in Cairo. However, Hamas in their response said that the Israeli proposal on a ceasefire did not meet the demands of Palestinian militant factions, but it would study the offer further and deliver its response to mediators. On the eve of Eid al-Fitr, an airstrike on residential building in the Nuseirat refugee camp in the central Gaza Strip killed at least 14 Palestinians. The Hamas-run health ministry said. Other airstrikes were reported in Deir al-Balah in central Gaza and in Rafah in the far south. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has repeatedly flagged plans for a ground assault on Rafah, where more than 1 million displaced civilians are holed up. Desperate international pleas for restraint. The Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, in a phone call to the US Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, specified that so far no date has been finalised for the Israeli operation in Rafah. Meanwhile, the British government has decided not to halt the sales of arms to Israel by British companies. The statement was made by the UK Foreign Minister David Cameron. 6 months into the Israeli air and ground campaign in Gaza, triggered by Hamas's October 7th attack on southern Israel, the UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's government has come under heavy pressure to revoke licences that allow arms exports to Israel. Well, the crisis in the Red Sea continues to spiral, as in the latest, the US military said it had destroyed an inbound anti-ship ballistic missile over the Gulf of Aden. That was launched by Iranian-backed Houthis and likely targeted the MV Yorktown. According to the US Central Command's post on social media platform X, no injuries or damage was reported. Houthi attacks have disrupted global shipping through the Suez Canal, forcing firms to reroute to longer and more expensive journeys around southern Africa. The militants, who control the most populous parts of Yemen, call their actions a response to Israel's military operations in Gaza and a show of solidarity to Palestinians. Well, for more on this, our correspondent Jodie Cohen sent us this report from Ranana.
So President Biden, in an interview filmed last week, said that Prime Minister Netanyahu should call for a 6 to 8 week ceasefire, and commentators are asking if that indicates a change in policy. Now, the Biden administration has clarified and said that there's been no change in policy and indicated that the ceasefire should only come with the return of hostages. Now, the interview was filmed before Biden's call last week with Netanyahu. Since that call, Israel has taken further steps to increase aid entering Gaza, and the US has welcomed those steps. Now, hours before Biden's interview was aired, Secretary of State Blinken gave a statement. He suggested that Hamas has been presented with a very serious offer for an extended pause in the fighting to enable the return of hostages and also more aid to be distributed around Gaza. He also suggested that he's astounded by the world's silence when it comes to Hamas and called for more pressure to be placed on Hamas to accept the proposal. Meanwhile, the hostage talks are ongoing, and it's thought that Hamas could reject the latest offer, and it remains to be seen what happens next.